Now the Underdogs are back, and this I don't know if you've all been fans of the TG4's show, but it really helped Kieran Donaghy cement his place on the Kerry football team. That's how long it's been going, all the way back. I don't know, is that 2 decades or so? That was the football. They've done hurling, they've done women's football, they've done camogie, and they're back to hurling. And I'm delighted to say Jamie Wall is going to be one of the selectors this year, and he joins us now. Jamie, Conas a tall too.
Ma, Ger, agus tú féin.
Cuisac ma.
Nice.
Tá mé beagnach creiceanna leis an Gaeilge. Beagnach sé sin atá agumsa. Agus tú féin.
Yeah, on will post all or go.
Neil post ar bit ag lorga gum. How is your Irish? Have you had to do a quick refresher course in it, or maybe you're flourishing the whole time?
Some bit, yeah, not too bad. Like I'd speak with Mam at home a bit here, and I've obviously been doing a small bit with GABO as well, so that has kept it some bit sharp. But even to be honest, like when we do the camps and we go in and you meet John Allen and he's straight away just bang Irish the whole time, it kind of takes me about a few hours to kind of get up to speed with himself and Claire O'Connor. They'd be a bit better than I am at it, so but it's great. I actually really enjoyed that side of the whole thing, actually, just coming away from the weekends, just kind of thinking, God, I've actually used my Irish for a couple of days here, so that even that in itself for me has been great.
I was going to say, because there's a period in all our lives where we're like, oh Jesus, I really wish I could speak better Irish, and my kids going to school over the last couple of years, it's definitely brought it back to me. I'm like, I can't understand why I didn't do more about this. So you have the opportunity, not alone to like have good crack on telly, watching some of the best underdog hurlers in the country, but also kind of just re-immerse yourself in your own culture.
Big time, yeah. Like that's just a bit of it. That's kind of like a nearly an unintended consequence that I really enjoyed. Like, is just getting to actually use your Irish again, flat out, and that's what it is, Ger. Realistically, like you said, the kids are bringing it home now, so you're kind of using it that bit more. Like, and it's the same for everyone. Like, it's just pure practice. Like, it's a language thing. Like with any language, if you don't use it, you get out of the habit of it. Like, no matter how good or bad you are at it. Like, so. That side of it is a nice thing, and I think it's one of the big things I suppose about TG4, like that I've always enjoyed, is that when you're watching the league and the club games and the underage games, that you do find you're stuck in the language and you pick things up quite quickly. Like, I mean, I know lots of people who don't have loads of Irish, but they seem to understand the TG4 commentary, because they always say to me like, oh, you said such and such about this fella, like, and I'm kind of like, she said, I didn't know you had Irish. And it's like, oh no, well, they have it then, like, so it certainly sharpens the blade for people a bit.
You'll have to learn the couple of swear words as well, Jamie, the couple of fuckle on the sideline to really hammer home your instructions. That's probably another part of it.
I think I'm better off actually not knowing them. If I don't know them, I can't say them, at least.
You've got there's a strong Cork flavour there. You mentioned John Allen, like that probably makes you feel a little bit more at home as well. It's there's always Cork lads everywhere. Proper order, I'm sure you will say.
Big time, yeah. Look, to be honest with you, like for me, probably one of the main attractions with the whole thing is getting involved with somebody like John Allen. Like, he's Jerry, you were talking about the last how long the Underdogs is going on, but like I was thinking how long it is since Cork won in All Ireland, that it's actually John Allen was the last All Ireland winning manager for us back in 2005. So as a Cork person, obviously, like, getting to just be in his presence and listen to him and learn from someone like him it's been unreal, to be honest with you. Even like I just find sitting with him at lunch sometimes and just you just actually sit back and you're like, consciously in your head, it's like, I'm going to shut up here for 5 minutes and just listen to this man, because he's very much a kind of a understated, but like kind of that wisdom kind of, it really just flows from him. Like, so I really have just enjoyed just sitting back and shutting my mouth for 5 minutes, to be honest with you, and listening to him.
One of the things that has also kind of made me fall in love again with the language is just how brilliant it is at capturing certain things. And what you're talking about, John Allen, he's a C in the Irish. Like, that's when you talk about him, I'm kind of, that's what, and I don't know if you have an English word that's the same. That's like wise man, gentle, somebody you would follow, like somebody you need to listen to and suck the knowledge out of. It's too many words, but he's a C. And like, what is that like? Because we need more John Allens in our lives.
Well, like for me, like, we'll say, even on a personal sense, like, just like I obviously have my eyes on management and coaching and that whole journey, and it is very much a journey. Like, and you see, like John, who's kind of has kind of gone through the journey, we'll say, and has so much, has learned so much in it. Like, and so for me, like, you just, someone like him, you straight away are gravitate towards him. But like, I think it's even just like he's just very interested in people. I think, like, you know, he's a former principal. Like, he talks to, he's massive. It's like, I reckon hurling is his second favorite thing, to be honest with you. Like, it's traditional music is his favorite thing, really. Like, and he talks to Claire and myself about music nearly as much as hurling. Like, and he's interested in old music, new music. I was at Arctic Monkeys last week in Spain, and he was sending me messages for Namunkaha Arctic and asking about this, and sent me a message even saying that their performance at Reading and Leeds was on BBC. Like, and I'm kind of like, how do you know all of this about everything? Like we're not even talking about hurling, and you're putting me to shame. Like, so, like, just to be honest with you, like, you just sit and listen to him, whatever the topic is, and he's had such a like, he's seen so much in the world. Like, obviously they got those amazing holidays with Cork back when they were in All Ireland finals and that, but like, even with the whole Limerick, he was involved with Limerick obviously as well in 2013 and that. So like, he's been out to JP's fabled parts of the world. We'll hear kind of stories about the Limerick lads getting out and that, and like, he's seen so much of the world. He's seen so much of life in that like, you'd be a fool not to be kind of just sitting there kind of listening to the likes of, like you said, John Allen's in our lives. Like, and it's just great for me and for the players that are involved, and for Claire, and, you know, for all of us, and even for the production crew. Like, I know for a fact that some of them are sitting there just listening to John as well. Like, and it's just to get to work with someone like that has that kind of that just worldly experience and kind of knowledge and wisdom, I think, is a better word even than knowledge. Like, it's been great.
It's funny, Jimmy, you talk about John being more interested nearly in people, and like we were talking earlier about Graham Potter, the Brighton manager, you know, being interested in emotional intelligence, and probably similar thing as well, people, and having interests outside of your chosen sport. Like, for you, when you're as you say, sitting there over the lunch table, like, have you always been that kind of manager where you're nearly soaking everything up like a sponge, and maybe taking tidbits from different managers? You watch the Codys and whomever else. Like, are you one of those kind of learn by listening sort of managers that picks little bits up here and there?
I probably hadn't been. It might be one of the big things I've learned in all this, is that I need to be more like that. Probably spent too much time talking and not enough time listening. And it's something that I've just definitely picked up from being in the presence of someone like John, is that sometimes you need to just shut your mouth and open your ears. Like, and it's something that hasn't done me any harm in the last couple of weeks and months. But like, look, like you're talking about the likes of Cody's, like, you know, these guys that are legendary figures. Like, I had the pleasure of meeting Brian once before, and he had a very different kind of aura, but it was similarly kind of almost like you can't stay, like, kind of, you know, like in the Lord of the Rings, like, I know that's back in vogue, like, where you're just staring into the ring, like, you know, you're just drawn to this presence. And like, there's just certain people that draw you to their presence, like, and maybe John Allen is more of a Gandalf figure. I don't know who you actually characterize Cody as, but it's that kind of, you know, people that just draw you in, like, and I think just trying to be cognizant of that, and maybe trying to kind of be a quiet listener at this stage is something that's been pretty good to try and just develop that side of things. But like I said, he's just so good at talking at the right time and then listening as well. Like he's, so like, I think that I've learned so much straight away there, like, in terms of, even, to be honest with you, like, not as a hurling manager, like, even, you know, if you're just trying to be a person, to be quite honest with you.
If you're not from Kilkenny, Brian Cody's clearly Sauron. That was like, that's where that one.
That was implied. I just didn't want to say.
There you go. It's okay. It's okay. We feel comfortable saying these types of things.
Okay.
But if you're from Kilkenny, obviously he's everything. He's all the rest of it. He's the good one. He's the
one ring.
He's the Eagles coming to save you. It's really interesting listening to you just talk. I'm on the managerial route and I'm trying to soak up as much information as I can. Do you have a time frame in your head for where that goes, or is that the type of thing that actually is just a bad idea from the get-go, because then you put yourself on a clock, and the wrong opportunity at the wrong time might be something that you feel like you have to force yourself into?
I feel like you've answered the question better than like exactly almost as I'd like to answer it myself. You're really there. Like I think for a while actually at the start of it, I would have thought, yeah, you're on a clock now. You have to do this by 30, you have to do this by 35, and this by 40. And like, well, I turned 30 there last month, and you realise very quickly that Jesus, no, actually, this is more of a kind of a journey, and you don't really get to choose at what point you get to take certain exits. We'll say you just have to, they'll appear for you, and like you kind of have to be smart and patient with it. Like, and so I think, like you said, like if you put yourself on that clock, you know, you rush headlong into something because you think, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that, instead of, you know, just like when you get an opportunity to maybe do something a little bit less, we'll say a little bit less kind of high pressure, but more, you know, learning based, we'll say, which is what this has definitely been for me. Like, it's just been a totally different experience, and totally different experience of learning in that. Like, you learn different things about yourself, and some, not all of them might be perfectly relevant to management. Like, there's no such thing as something that you've learned that's not going to be relevant for you going forward, because you learn skills with all of that. So like, I think, like you said, like putting a clock on it would be foolish. Like, I've actually going into my seventh year, would have been my 8th year, like involved in colleges hurling at the moment, this year, which is amazing to me that it's actually so long. You know, going into my 5th year involved with club stuff, like which to me at my age seems like loads. Like, I'm kind of like, Jesus, that's nearly a third of my life, or it's nearly a sixth of my life. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's absolutely no time at all. Like, and there's still loads that you have to, like, there's loads more John Allens that you have to try and meet and soak things up from. Like, so I think putting a clock on it would be silly. Like, to be honest, I think, like you said, it's a case of just take it kind of experience by experience and learn as much as you can.
The other thing about coaching and management is that obviously the game evolves really quickly, and I'm very interested in like what your desire as a manager is. Do you want to be somebody who has a definitive style of play that actually you think is going to be successful in almost every scenario, or are you pretty desperate to like be able to have 5 or 6 different things that you can ask your team to do? Like, it doesn't feel like Pep Guardiola has multiple ways to play, because it feels like he believes that there is the best way to win. And I don't know if Paul Kinnerk feels something similar, or if Paul Kinnerk would actually just skin you in any game in a different way if he thought that was the way to win it. Like, how do you approach the tactical side and the acquisition of the skills as a manager to implement those tactics? What's your idea behind that?
I think, like, to be honest, like, you cut your cloth to fit your measure. Like, I think, like, the reason Kilkenny worked for so long with what seemed like a rudimentary game plan was that they actually had the bodies that were best suited to winning that kind of game. And like, I think if Paul Kinnerk and if Limerick didn't have, you know, the kind of players they did, they might say, okay, we want to play this way, but we have to tweak it a certain bit. Like, I think even, look, I spoke to Paul years ago, like, and we spoke about stuff like this, and like, he used the term kind of principles of play, which I thought was good, because it kind of allowed you like a framework, but that you had flexibility within it. And I think for me personally, that's probably the way I would think about the game as well. Like, I would think there is certainly a right way and a wrong way in general, but equally, you know, like, it's nearly like it's difficult. It's kind of a language debate, really. Like, you can talk about systems or tactics, like, and like one is for a specific game where you might tweak something, but that you still generally have an actual method to your play, like, and that there are still kind of general things that you do, even if you change 1 or 2 slight things for a game. And I think even, look, like, Guardiola can say that he has this and he's that, and all he wants is small, tricky wingers and that, but like, he's happy enough when Erling Haaland is scoring 700 goals in a season for him, and he's not exactly your typical Pep kind of player. Like, he runs in behind, he's a brute around the box. So like, I think everyone, no matter how dogmatic they might be, if they're going to have any success, has to be some bit flexible to certain ways. Like, for me, like, in hurling, like, in the last couple of years, in the last 7 years, like, I've played, like, not I, like, the teams that I've been involved with, but like, we've played loads of different ways. We've played with sweepers, we've played with 3 in midfield, we've played with 4.5 forward line. We tried playing 4 in the full forward line once just to try and open up a half forward line. Like there's so many different things that you can try and do. And some of them work really well, and some of them are complete disasters, and you look like an idiot. But I think it's just a case of kind of learning how each of them kind of works best, and then kind of learning how to apply them to certain situations. Because even within games, sometimes the right thing to do is to sit someone back in front of your full back line for 5 minutes just to settle things down. And then sometimes the right thing to do is actually to squeeze up. And you even see that football is nearly always, with the exception of Limerick, Gaelic football is always 5 or 10 years ahead of hurling tactically. And you even see now, in football, teams push up and then they drop off, and then they push up and then they drop off, because they don't actually want you to figure them out. They have, within a game, they have even different kind of plans for different phases of games and different game states. So I think, to be honest, having one set kind of pattern, it doesn't work. Whatever about soccer, it's a bit more controlled. In Gaelic games, there is an element, there's still always going to be an element of chaos to it, especially in hurling when the ball can go 90 yards. There's just always going to be, coaches are always going to try and control things, but there's always going to be an element of chaos. That's why you get probably contests that we get, which are so memorable.
I think, Jamie, most people will be familiar with the Underdogs concept and this idea that only 30 players can obviously reach the ultimate challenge match at the end. That, of course, means that you have to make, as management, the tough decision, each week to drop one or more players. Having spoken to different managers in different sports over the last number of years, they often say that can be the most difficult aspect of the job, letting people down who feel like they maybe should be involved. Is that something, and you'll be well used to it with Fitzgibbon Cup teams yourself, but do you find that the most difficult part of the job, or it's not easy, especially when it's on the TV as well? It doesn't make it easy for those players getting dropped.
Yeah, it's you know what, that's definitely the worst part of the whole thing. It's the eliminations, and I suppose, like you said there, Shane, the fact that it's on TV as well, so you're kind of, there's a human aspect to it, and that you're kind of you feel for the person, because they've put in, they've been brave to come, they've been brave to stay involved for a start, because there's plenty lads signed up and then kind of might have come to the first trial and then dropped out, and for various reasons. Some people dropped out before the first trial even, said they'll do it and then decided not to. So it's you would have fierce respect for anyone that puts themselves forward in anything in life, and this is just another one of those things, and so you'd have huge respect for someone to do that, and then to have to tell someone that what really wants to be somewhere that their journey is over. I think there's a huge difference. If you were dropping someone from a squad because of commitment issues, you wouldn't lose. I personally, you wouldn't lose a night's peace over it. But when you're dropping someone from a squad who really wants to be there and who's working really hard to be there, that isn't nice. And I suppose that is the thing you sign up to, that if you want to go down the line, so you can't be squeamish about it. But equally, I don't think you'd be well suited to management if you couldn't see the human side of that either. And that is tough. And even, the eliminations, I found, we wrapped up our last camp there 2 weeks ago. So that was the last of it. And you found that with each camp, the eliminations got harder, because you were getting, because we only met these guys 5-6 months ago, you're getting to know them better as people as well, and it's just harder to tell someone that you've grown to know and that the journey's over than we say someone you might only know a wet week.
When is the match?
The match is I'm not certain, but I think it's the end of October. I think we're waiting for absolute confirmation, but right. I think it's the last weekend of October.
Okay, and so will you be training in between, obviously, to try and...
Yeah. So also, we wrapped up our last camp last week, but we still have a couple more training sessions over the next 2 months. We'll say there's a couple of them scheduled in for the next couple of Saturdays and throughout October as well. I
think it's becoming an increasingly interesting concept as time goes on, because we understand just how difficult it is to commit to intercounty and the level of training that has to go on, and Brodie used the phrase indentured servants, slaves. Did he call them slaves?
Indentured slaves, I think. Didn't he say that?
Yeah. So I'd say there's lots of people who are intercounty standard who in their early 20s decided that they probably didn't have the level of commitment to give to it, but who in their late 20s are geez, I really wish I had maybe tried it before.
Yeah. Yeah, like, but to be honest, sure, like, I mean, another thing we found here, and it was no massive surprise to me, just given, like, like I'm involved with my own club at home, and we're only in the kind of the 5th grade in Cork, like, but the level of commitment that we ask of the lads is pretty high, and they give it, like a lot of guys, the club commitments, has certainly, it has made for, we'll say, over the last couple of camps where, like, numbers are up and they're down, and they're up and they're down, because, like, lads' club commitments are so heavy as well. And we, from the very start, we were very much of the opinion that, like, we were trying to help lads get better with their clubs, not impact on the clubs in a negative way. So, like, that this isn't a complaint as such, but just the reality is that at club level now, the commitment of your top players is absolutely huge. Like I don't know, do people realise the club commitment of, we'll say, like, I think people are starting to realise the club commitment of, we'll say, the guys in the very top clubs, we'll say, like, your Kilmacuds and Ballygunners and them, like, that they are operating at a very, very high level. But to be honest with you, like, if you go to any half-serious intermediate or junior club in most counties, there is actually quite a serious level of commitment asked of players and that, like, and that's why the standard, so that's why the overall standard has gone up at intercounty, but also at club level, like, so like, it's not an amazement to me to see that, and, like, that's why I suppose it will be interesting to see in a month, a month and a bit's time now, like, how, when you get a collection of guys who are training at that level already with their clubs and get them together, how they can compete against guys at, we'll say, at the next rung up the ladder. And like we're under no illusions, like, unlike maybe some in club GA who will remain nameless, that there is still a huge jump from club to county GA. Like, there's a massive jump, and it'll be a huge challenge for the lads, like, but like, that's what they've signed up for, is that challenge of saying, can I compete? Like, whether they can or they can't, that's something that we'll find out on this pitch. And that's the thing I love about sport, is that it's a meritocracy. Like, you get what you deserve, but, like, they want to see, if I put in a bit of work with guys of similar level, can I compete with the guys at the next level up?
Yeah.
Well,
the new season starts on September 15th at 9:30 on TG4's. Gormalgut, August, best of luck with everything. I think your coaching journey over the next while is going to be really interesting, Jamie. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Gormalgut, Slán.
Jamie Wall there, who is part of the Underdogs management team.